name's Tom Roth. We're at the Manhattan Plant Materials Center. I'm the state agronomist with NRCS, and I get to do all things agronomic. And so when we look at agronomy, we look at it from the perspective of resource management and how the practices that we apply to the landscape affect different resources that we deal with. And what we're looking actually at is the different resource concerns in our planning process. And then we are developing conservation plans that have a suite of practices that help to address those resource concerns.
Big thing. Dan Schultz, Grainfield, Kansas. Born and raised in the area. Been involved in agricultural all my life. Married, 2 girls. About a nutshell. Probably got started when I was still in high school, so been working in agriculture all my life, but actually had the opportunity to start doing what I do probably in the, I'd say early 80s would be my guess. We have been practicing no-till since '92, and just through my involvement there, I guess was asked to serve on the board. I don't know how many years ago at this point, but that's where I got involved with the Conservation District. The benefits of serving on the Conservation District is you're kept up to date on NRCS's ideas. You do get to add a little bit of information on how some of those programs are implemented. I've really appreciated and found value with the one-on-one, the conversations with people in the industry through NRCS and conservation. Also, it highlights the work that needs to be done. I guess the more involved I got with conservation districts and in my travels, we have a lot of work to do yet. It's never ending. We're never going to get to that place where conservation is not needed. It's just a never-changing environment. Biggest challenges, there was a time where we didn't have personnel, but I think that's being corrected, in there. I'm always wondering why we don't have more participation in some of the programs, because there's a need for it, and the information and the people that are there to visit with to get that. But a lot of people are still pushing the easy button and either not paying attention to what their soils are telling them or just don't care. I haven't figured that one out yet. My practices, as I said, we try. Tillage is never our first option. I'm not going to say we haven't used it in the past. When we make mistakes, we have to kind of straighten some things up, but that's not my first option. I tried to plant something every year into every acre with a diverse rotation using the 4 quadrants of warm season broadleaf, warm season grass, cool season grasses, to cool season broadleaves, and using that in a diverse rotation. Use of cover crops, I try to place those in opportunities where I have long fallows. For me, a good place to use them is after wheat harvest, as I fallow that stubble into next spring. We're really seeing a lot of nice benefit putting rye in after corn, that we rotate to a soybean or a broadleaf the following year. The allelopathic effect it has on suppression of some certain weeds has been amazing, and so we're still expanding on that. But we've tried in the past some covers and grazing implementing the livestock. That works well if you have a few pieces of the puzzle labor. Possibly a patch of perennial grass where you can move the cattle off if you so choose to use the cattle in cases of wet times to get them off the cropland. So there's some, we've used those with some success, with some failures as we learn through our experiences.
And so soil health is the ability of the soil to provide food and fiber to the people of this country, and also provide a living to the farmers and ranchers that are here. Soil health looks at the ability of the soil to function. And when we talk about soil function, we're talking about the movement of water into the soil. We're talking about raindrop impact and doing the best we can to moderate soil erosion. Nutrient cycling. We want to try and keep those nutrients on the field and available to those plants, and not have them wind up in our rivers and lakes where we run into eutrophication issues and algal blooms.
We are in a semi-arid. We're looking at an average rainfall of 19 to 21, depending on location. But soils here become extremely fragile in long periods of lack of rainfall. We can get in a position that the residue we have left standing is maybe our best defense. Instead of trying to go in there and plant another cover, then we chop up the residue that we have, and now we have exposed ourselves to a risk of wind erosion. That's been an experience that I'm not fond of. And so we really need to, we'll use covers when we can, but it's not just an every year. I feel in my operation, the diversity I bring to the soils through my cash crops brings a lot of diversity to soil health and my soil biology. And that's using corns, soybeans, wheat, sunflowers, milo, all those in a somewhat of a planned rotation. The irrigation helps alleviate some of the moisture issues, but we try to use the same implemented plans when we can on the dry land acres. But we do have to, when we do expense the water for a cover crop, I am confident that we get twice the return the following year with infiltration, all the benefits of it. We actually save water the second year if we have to expense some, if it doesn't rain.
Well, so, one of the things that's, I think, important is how we, one of the things that we look at are nutrients and water, and the ability of that soil to cycle nutrients, and also the ability of rainfall that takes place to infiltrate into our soil. And if you can keep the soil on the field and promote good soil structure, then you can move water into the soil, and also your nutrients will stay on that field and be available to the plant. It's a systems approach. It's just not a single practice that is important with soil health. If you're not rotating your crops and maintaining residue and keeping a living root out there as much as possible, incorporating livestock if possible, that works for that particular producer. Those types of things can have an impact on risk, production risk. Well, I think the important thing is to have soil is the building block of our society. And what we can do to help it function at the highest level possible is something that I think most cooperators want to do. And having the ability for the plant to grow, to infiltrate water, to cycle nutrients, those are all things that help from a production standpoint.
Like the field behind us was in irrigated wheat last year. And so after we harvested the wheat, we came in and planted a cover crop in that long fallow period. And then we come in and we terminated it this spring and planted broadleaf behind there. And after the flowers, the one thing with the flower rotations is I don't have a lot of residue once those are harvested. I got a lot of broomsticks and not a lot. But as you can see, there's going to be a fair amount of residue still. I still have my soils armored and covered even after the flower rotations. I would like to be able to maybe put another quick cover crop in that after harvest, and then I'll come back in with the warm season grass, a sorghum, and then I'll come back in the following year and plant me a corn, and then I'll come back in, then I'll interject another cover after the corn, come back in with the soybean, and then I'll go back to my wheats. And so through those whatever it is 5-year program, we'll see a multitude of species. What that does, what that gives me the benefit is I keep diseases wondering what I'm doing. I keep insects guessing. I don't ever give them an opportunity to get economically held in my lands. So I find the return on that system beneficial for lower input cost, lower watering, irrigation use. I spread that out. So it's just to me, it's a win-win. It works on my place. So that's what I like the use of diversity, and I try to use those same cropping bullets, if you want to say, in my dry land. I have to be a little more conscious with dry seasons, so on and so forth. I get a little more creativity in that, but I still use them. It's just, I'm not a big fan of chem fallow. Personal thoughts is it's caused me some resistance issues in the past. So I just try to plant something new into those lands every year. So that's me.